Weekly round table with your speaker Andrew Irumba, and I'm also privileged to host my comrade, my elder brother, my senior Comrade Danny Rugarama, the chairman of the Pan-African Movement Uganda chapter, and also a lawyer. Rugarama is actually a city lawyer. Comrade Rugarama, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, and good morning to our esteemed viewers. We appreciate your time, which you put aside to be with us and to listen to us. We do not in any way claim to be the custodians of absolute knowledge. We can only share the little that we have.
We are calling it little as if it is little.
And then we listen from you. Your feedback helps us to improve. I thank you so much.
And those of us who are following us on our social media platform, the Spy, Uganda, Detective UG, the Pan-African Pyramid, where this show also runs, we thank you so much. Give your comments, give your ideas, we will pick them and we shall take them up. Those of you following us across the world, we thank you. Comrade Rugarama, last week we had a number of other issues apart from what we are going to discuss about. But you know, this is a weekly roundup. We take the audience throughout the world. What are some of those issues that happened in your neighborhood or in your hood that affect Africa, or actually are of consequence to Africa?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I reckon the fact that the incidences in the Democratic Republic of Congo
DRC
have not yet died down. Although we may say that the guns have kind of gone silent, but the truth of the fact is of the matter is that the M23, for instance, captured big chunks of territory in eastern and northern Kivu.
You know, actually, Comrade, it is not true that the guns have gone silent.
They have instead increased.
Yes, because as we speak, they're even moving. Last night I saw General Muhoozi even telling them, please advance faster or we come ourselves.
Which Muhoozi is this?
General, the CDF of Uganda. He was in Kigali with Andrew Mwenda. And they are advancing to capture more territories.
One of the tweets, or it was...
One of the tweets, in one of the tweets.
No. You see, sometimes we get confused as to whether these tweets are actually the true hand of the CDF, or maybe sometimes with this technology of ours, these young men and women can do anything. So, however,
why do you doubt? Why do you doubt that they don't come from a CDF? Why?
What I'm saying is that sometimes it has happened. You find that somebody hooks into. If you are still lucky, for instance, somebody can take up your WhatsApp.
Hacking. They hack into your account.
Yes, and it is not only email, it is not only WhatsApp, even Twitter, everything to do with the latest technology. And that is why you find that some of these institutions like Uganda Revenue Authority, they keep intensifying the firewall defenses. But assuming that it is true that the CDF, for instance, tweets some of these tweets that we put to him, then if he came out and probably physically and confirmed that they are his, we could take him on the account of the fact that he has owned them up. Nevertheless, the issue of M23 and what is happening, generally speaking, in the DRC is not something that we as true Pan-Africanists, at least those of us who aspire to be true Pan-Africanists, would say we are happy about. But it is happening. Now that it is happening, when we get, I want to believe that, for instance, the entry of our CDF and Comrade Andrew Mwenda in Kigali was geared towards reaching an amicable solution to the problem, or at least adding their voice to see how the problem can be resolved. And this one, of course, is in the bigger, wider efforts that, for instance, the president of Kenya, or for that matter, the East African members of EACA, the East African community, and members of the SADC have, for a very long time up to now, been trying to advance in ensuring that the issue, especially of M23 in the DRC, is contained. Now, I have said, and I will repeat it here, that it will nevertheless have to take the president of DRC, His Excellency Tshisekedi, an extra edge in terms of thinking precision to ensure that the problems of DRC, first and foremost, are actually solved by DRC itself. Because I can assure you, neighbors can feel extremely for you, but at the end of the day, the issue of your own homestead, your own house, are going to be best sorted out by the head of the home itself. Having said that, we have seen Africa, and especially in our East African region, the tense situations in South Sudan, and it becomes very unfortunate that we have got people in the modern day and age now, in the case of South Sudan, which is one of the youngest, if not truly the youngest country on planet Earth, looking at themselves as being different. The Nuas, the Dinkas, they think they are actually very different and they can't live together. Now that in our world, in the Pan-African world, is what we term as ideological bankruptcy. Because there is, I can assure you, no, this is the truth. Because what South Sudan now needs is not to magnify differences, if the differences are there anyway, between the Nuas or the Dinkas and who should be the president, who should be the commander, this and governor that. These are two small things. Africa has got very big challenges where we have got the invisible hand of the imperialists, and we should be galvanizing efforts to make sure that we combat that invisible hand.
You saw last week, Tshisekedi and Kagame could not adhere or respect the regional leadership that called them to table. The entire East African leaders sat, and Kagame and Tshisekedi could not listen. Some of even the African leaders, including South African leader on the continent, tried to bridge the gap between Kagame and Tshisekedi, and Tshisekedi could not respect them, neither did Kagame. But you saw last week how both of these leaders went to Qatar, and they're respecting the other leader who called them on table. Actually, you saw the photo having a good time with that leader of Qatar, and I think that was their first time again to see eye to eye. What does that picture show you? That the African leaders, not one leader, many of them have called you to table. You have refused to listen. But one leader from UAE has called you. You have run. Like Usain Bolt. And all of you are meeting him with a lot of humility and respect. And the man is like, you saw the picture.
I saw the picture.
Really? I want to hear you in your Pan-African view. African leaders, 54 of them want you to sit down as brothers and talk. You are saying, no, I can't talk to this mad man. But then one leader calls you and you run like Usain Bolt. What does that project for Africa?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I will not say that that was a sad moment, because anybody who makes a meaningful contribution to peace building is supposed to be welcome. But the Bible is also very instructive. The Holy Bible is very instructive, and looking at it as a very instructive and holy book, when they say that a prophet is not respected at home, and that came true in the case of His Excellency Tshisekedi and His Excellency Paul Kagame, because when you look at regional leaders, His Excellency Paul Kagame described the president of South Africa as a mere poser who poses to be bringing peace.
When actually he's not.
When in actual sense he's not trying to bring peace. When you look at other regional leaders, members of the East African community, in one way or another, you will find that we have got interest. If it is Uganda, you remember the M23 was actually here. They actually left here and they went back to DRC. You remember, yes, the M23, if you want, you can call them. They were here as refugees after their the understanding with the government had failed. And His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, had warned the President of Democratic Republic of Congo then that these people are going to be a problem. And there's no, it's no wonder that they are a problem as we talk. What happens is that in one way or another, you will find that the protagonists in this conflict will look at the other regional members with a suspicious eye. For instance, if you hear members of SADC, they will say, after all, at one time, Zimbabwe, Angola, they were all in DRC. I remember Rwanda and Uganda fought them, and they were beaten badly. So now, when there is an intervention, and there have been interventions, especially from Lorenzo, who has tried to bring in some semblance of harmony. But maybe at the risk of sounding cantankerous, I will tell you that we have got a bigger problem. When they try to look at the leader of Qatar as a neutral party, because the leader of Qatar has not directly participated in the affairs of DRC, he's not an immediate neighbor, and he's not being suspected by anybody.
But we are suspecting that he's also a beneficiary. He has interest in Congo.
He may, but you cannot, for instance, put your finger directly on the leader of Qatar and you say he's participating, say, in the affairs of MONUSCO or MONUC, and he's far away removed. So when he makes an invitation to these two leaders and say, please, I can mediate you, is most likely to be believed. And I think that is the reason and the logic behind why he called the two leaders after they had called each other all sorts of names. The other one was a deliverer of McDonald's or whatever, vending chapati. This other one was saying he was also selling mandazi somewhere. And clearly you can see that that was also building on the other Zoom conference of the EACA that took place, because certain words were used. I remember the president of Burundi just excused himself and he never came back. He didn't even ask the chairperson, by the way, of the meeting by then the president of Kenya. But still, what do I see? What I see is that, and I think I had made a comment at one time, I see that we need to regenerate ourselves. For instance, in DRC, we have got a bigger problem that we have not had the rebirth of Emir Patrice Lumumba. We need an Emir Patrice Lumumba because that organic, serious leadership. You remember, I usually quote this authority by Chinua Achebe when he was writing about the problem in Nigeria. And he said, what is the problem in Nigeria? And he pointed it out as leadership. Largely speaking, although we have got other problems in globally speaking, for instance, one would argue that we have got a problem of leadership in the United States of America. That's a different thing altogether. Probably we shall talk about it. But the problem we have, generally speaking, on the African continent, generally speaking, is leadership. I'm also aware that we have got very serious leaders on the African continent, but who are let down by imperialism and the imperialist agents who are also operating here. Nevertheless, I do not see in the near future the problem, for instance, in South Sudan, the problem in Democratic Republic of Congo being sorted out if we do not develop internal mechanisms to overcome the same challenges.
Very good, thank you. Now, Comrade Rugarama, Trump revokes legal status for 532,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. They have 2 weeks to leave. The United States said Friday it was terminating the legal status of hundreds of thousands of immigrants, giving them 2 weeks to leave the country. President Donald Trump has pledged to carry out the largest deportation campaign in the U.S. history and curb immigration, mainly from Latin American nations. The order affects around 532,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who came to the United States under a scheme launched in October 2022 by Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, and expanded in January the following year. They will lose their legal protection 30 days after the Department of Homeland Security's order is published in the Federal Register, which is scheduled on Tuesday. That means immigrants sponsored by the program must depart the United States by April 24th unless they have secured another immigration status allowing them to remain in the country. Well, Biden touted the plan as a safe and humane way to ease pressure on crowded US-Mexico border. Comrade Lesafri, only 75,000 affirmative asylum applications were filed, so the vast majority of that parolees will find themselves without status. Comrade Lesafri, Comrade Rugarama, I want to hear your 2 cents on that. America is sending back 532,000 human beings to their respective countries from Haiti, Venezuela, and so on.
Mr. Speaker, sir, you know there is sometimes certain things happen, and the immediate observation is that this is very horrifying. It looks extremely very sad. But when you critically look at it, you are like, let it also happen, such that people can sort themselves out.
It does happen.
Yes.
So you're happy?
Maybe.
Or you don't know?
I will.
You are neither happy nor.
I will look at it this way. One, it is very unfortunate that President Trump unilaterally revokes the legal status of people who gained entry into United States of America legally. Who have had their families resettled there
Legally.
Who probably, if not all of them, by now have brought their families and settled there. But most importantly, who are running away from some, if you like, political persecution. Although I know for a fact that some of them may just want to test greener pastures. They think their homes are not anymore
Green
safe.
enough. They are not green enough.
And therefore they must chase the American dream. Now this American dream is, if you critically look at it, by the way, is a myth. Because people think that life is better buttered in the United States of America. That's far from the truth. What is true actually is what Trump is now bringing out. I want to state as follows, that 350,000 human beings from Haiti,
Venezuela,
a country that was actually is up to now being destabilized by America itself. And this is where my quarrel is. That Trump, from Nicaragua, from Haiti, from Cuba, Cuba itself is being destabilized by America. No any other person is destabilizing Cuba. No any other person is destabilizing Venezuela. It is the United States of America. United States of America has made it her business. And all the subsequent leaderships, by the way, whether it is a Republican, because remember when it was Donald Trump first, he's the one who was in bringing chaos in Venezuela. And when their brothers, Cubans, tried to help them stabilize the army, then they also enhanced economic embargo sanctions on Cuba. We know for a fact that multiple
Cuba
times
has been on American
economic embargo for more than 60 years. Not only that, that would, because now if you asked any average Cuban, he will tell you that it is normal to live under the economic embargo. That wouldn't be a problem. The Cubans have devised ways, because even with that so-called economic embargo, they still hold the first place, globally speaking, as far as the health of their people is concerned. They have got the best literacy levels, the literacy levels in terms of the average Cuban.
The numbers of educated people.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, the economic embargo that, virtually speaking, Cuba has suffered from America, and you know, because of the size of America and the military might and the economic muscle. If America imposes sanctions on you of whatever nature, you will find that other countries, by one way or another, whether they like it or not, will be following suit. Actually, the embargo of Cuba, the embargo against Cuba, is such that whichever country deals with America to a percentage of 10% will, by implication, have got to impose reciprocal sanctions on you. What that means is that there is no country on planet Earth that does not deal with Cuba. I mean, deal with America. by implication, you cannot be dealing with a country like America and you are at a level of less than 10%. It means that is another way of saying that nobody should be dealing with. And there is an international law that issues to do with health. You shouldn't impose sanctions on the transactions that border on health. But by that pronouncement itself, you can see that even America does not respect that. So at the end of the day, when Trump comes up and says whatever was done by Joe Biden, legally speaking, I am now reversing it, and he gets a country like El Salvador and he says for you, you can, even American citizens, and the majority of them who are in prison are actually blacks, by the way. That one is what should be at the mind of whoever is
the majority of
discussing.
inmates in those American cells are blacks.
America has got the highest number of incarcerations on planet Earth of male youth than any country on planet Earth. Why? It is an unwritten law that when they incarcerate youth male, they are going to reduce drastically, and they have successfully done that. The fertility levels, because the whites, majority of them are infertile. They cannot manage to produce the way we, who are naturally loved by the Almighty God, that we have got the energy. This is a fact, because if you want to prove it, you can ask even the opposite gender. There is no any white woman that is going to get in touch with a black person, a black male person, in the sexual sphere, and will go back to a white person. That will never happen. Why? The energy that God gave us is overwhelming, and at the same time the fertility rates that the levels. If you do not deploy a method where you are incarcerating massively, you are incarcerating the male blacks in a country like America, which is highly racist. Of course, they will tell you different things. It doesn't matter what they say, but what they do is the most important thing. So what happens is that they fear that even a country like Haiti, for instance, which is largely black, when those people come as immigrants and they gain legal status, they will be populating the United States of America, and the risk of depopulating the whites, because naturally they would be depleted, they would go away anyway. They must be preserved. It is an endangered species. The whites in America is an endangered species. They must be preserved by the leadership. So what Trump is trying to do...
So they do that by detaining
detaining the blacks.
Male.
Not only detaining them. That is what probably may not sound to be very cruel. They, apart from detaining them, they also shoot them on the streets. They also make them extremely poor. You see, when you don't have the means, you do not get into the mood of procreation. So disproportionately, the blacks in the United States of America are made disputes within their country, and some, because the housing scheme if you have been very observant, majority of the states which are faced with catastrophes like hurricane and what have you, they are black populated. You see, that is one. Yes, it's very intentional, because they have poor houses, if they can call them houses, and when that happens, even when that happens, by the way, you look at the response of their governments, it's very slow. When they are blacks, it's very slow. Can you imagine that during COVID, by the way, it's not that the blacks were prone that for them they could be hit and they had a weaker resistance. It is known, for instance, world over, that blacks have got a stronger resistance to disease. Because we have got that stronger resistance to disease, there is no way any disease, including the HIV, which was deliberately manufactured by a certain section of white racists, thinking it would only kill the blacks, but they didn't put safety measures. It is also killing them. Now, the same which they they applied it manufacturing COVID virus, and it ended up killing them even more. But in America, it was killing blacks, and there was even a narrative that the blacks are going to be wiped out, and indeed a good number of them were wiped out. But what was exactly happening? What was happening is that the government was deliberately leaving out areas, black communities in America, and they were not being given the remedies, and they ended up dying in large numbers. If they can successfully achieve that, well and good. But what you have put forward in Trump's administration, he came up with executive orders, a number of executive orders, some of them reversing what tactfully Biden had done, hoodwinking us, thinking that we are just weekend thinkers and we are not going to be able to understand some of these things. For instance, by the time, I think like a week before Joe Biden left office, he had removed the economic embargo from Cuba, well knowing that Trump was certainly going to come and reinstate it. Trump outsmarted him. He didn't even just reinstate it. He also listed Cuba as a terrorist country, which he had also removed, by the way. Biden had removed. Now, what we know for a fact is that you list Cuba, you list Venezuela, you list Nicaragua, you list Haiti, and you say all their people, after causing trouble there, and that is my main problem, after United States of America's foreign policy, causing trouble by trying to influence the way the economies of those respective countries are run, the political architecture of those countries, either when you fail or you have minimally succeeded, you say we are now going to get your people, because they are the ones who had encouraged those immigrants to come to United States of America, claiming that the leaderships in those respective countries, Venezuela, Cuba, were so autocratic, dictatorial, and therefore their members come and chase the American dream. So what has happened to the American dream now?
The American dream is dead.
What we are looking at is the truth that America, United States of America, because when I say America, all of those countries, including Venezuela, they will claim they are also Americans, and indeed they are, south of America. So bottom line is that America and Trump himself is helping us in exposing the long-held fallacy that America is, United States of America is a country of polished, sophisticated, generous, morally upright human beings. They are not. They are like they are as fallible as any other society, if not worse.
Hey. Okay, Comrade, another one is here. President Trump on Friday night rescinded the security clearance of former President Kamala Harris, former Vice President Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, several members of the Biden administration, and other prominent Democrats. The move comes after Mr. Trump had already announced last month that he was revoking former President Joe Biden's security clearance in a memo on Friday. The president said he was also rescinding the security clearance of the entire Biden family. Also losing their access to classified information and the security clearance were former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, former Representative Adam Kissinger, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, New York Attorney General Letitia James, Manhattan Attorney General Alvin Bragg, former White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, former Representative Elizabeth Cheney, former White House Russia expert Fiona Hill, former Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, former U.S. Ambassador to the Czech Republic Norman Eisen, and Attorney Mark Zaid. I want to hear your 1 or 2 cents on this as well. Biden, Trump, is he now witch hunting his predecessors? He is actually reviewing the security details. Suppose you remove security from them and tomorrow they get a problem. Is Biden trying to practice African politics? That even, up to now, President Museveni calls Amini, Obote, swines, pigs, and so on. But the mistakes he's calling them for, you find that, if not more, are happening in his government. So is Trump trying to copy and paste?
On that I will call Ofono Pondo to counter that. Or maybe probably next time when I take his position, I will have an answer. But in the meantime, the American politics has never been any different from any other politics elsewhere. Sure? What has been happening is that they have had a way of managing their data learning not to show up in the public. And they have also created a narrative because they have huge media houses which shape and influence opinion. They will create a situation whereby the entire world will believe they are a civilized, democratic society, and for them they do not keep grudges, and the systems and policies are not reduced to individuals. But that is not the case. Actually, let me bring it to your attention and the attention of our viewers, for those who may not remember very well, that it's not Trump that has started this game of removing security detail and sharing of intelligence information. It is not the very first one. When Biden was the president, he remarked that he does not trust Trump, that Trump is of a certain temperament that he does not trust him with as a former president. As a former president, he does not trust him because he has got a certain temperament that is not to be trusted, and therefore he was removing the privilege of getting intelligence briefing in his capacity as a former president. And Trump,
using the same.
Yes, and Trump swallowed that.
So in other words, during the Biden administration, Trump was not getting intelligence information.
That's what he said, and Trump could not be paying back in the same currency if actually it had not been implemented. My guess is as good as anybody's that actually Joe Biden went ahead and implemented the removal of sharing intelligence briefing, which is an entitlement of a sitting president and all living former presidents and other high-ranking government officials that are in a category of getting the intelligence information. Now, all those people that have been mentioned, majority of them, you will realize that in one way or another, during the trials and the tribulation of Trump, they played their role. Like, for instance, you remember his troubles for incitement, that he incited those ones who revolted on the Capitol Hill. One member you have mentioned there actually participated in leading the investigations.
Who is that?
You in the list you'll find. When we shall get back. He was in charge of security.
Blinken?
No, not Blinken. Not Blinken. He was in charge of security. You have listed him. He's there, and he's the one who was leading the investigations that reached the conclusion that actually Trump participated in inciting a revolt against government, an insurrection, if you like.
Capitol Hill.
But now Trump is paying back. At the same time, when you look at the Blinken, Blinken was the former secretary of state. When you look at that entire list, including the former vice president, Kamala Harris, in one way or another, the trials that Trump, even when he was campaigning to become the next president for his second term, those members were making sure that he was having a very hard time, including, by the way, even in the judiciary. In the judiciary, you remember that Trump was convicted.
Yes.
He was convicted, but they made sure, because it was going to be irrelevant for them to say the conviction and the sentencing. The sentencing is what changed. The conviction was given, but the sentencing was that it was not going to be for custodial, in the sense that it would be meaningless. He had already become the president. Now you cannot detain a sitting president. So the point there is that Trump now is a wounded man, and he has as well forgotten the so-called sugarcoating of the American politics, and he's like behaving humanly, like any other human being who is not into God would do. Because you see, that is why for me I support religion. I may not be as religious as some people want to expect me to be, given the fact that this religion which we actually have here is nothing but a product or export of a white man, and we all know what the white man did. I cannot trust somebody who participated in slave trade, who participated in colonialism, to have brought something very good for which he himself has a long time abandoned. Because if you go to London now, or Britain if you like, you will find that the former church houses are actually museums and bars and discotheques. So there is no way I can trust that a white man who brought a religion called Anglicanism actually loves me and wants me to get closer to a God whom he claims that is much smarter than the God who was being worshipped by my great-grandparents, as if we started experiencing God from when the white man came here. Even blasphemously, his ship that was taking human beings from Africa was named Jesus. So you can imagine. So I have issues with that. However, anybody who is not closer to God, and that God must not be white. If you tell me that this is God of the Africans, I will agree. I have no problem, because I know Africans, we have got a better God than the whites. But that notwithstanding, a person who is not in God of the Africans will find a problem not behaving the way, for instance, Trump is behaving. Trump is behaving typically like any other human being. He was hurt, he must hurt back. And that's what he's doing. So I want to state, therefore,
as you wind up?
As I wind up on this, I want to state, therefore, that as far as taking away security detail, for instance, as far as the institutional history of United States of America is concerned, it is wrong. Any president who does it, whether it is Trump or it was Biden, is wrong. But it is being done nevertheless.
But also, Comrade Rugarama, most of the former presidents and all those big people in America are still alive. So you realize that giving them a lot of security detail also in certain terms, it is also an inconvenience. I want to take an example like on Ugandan roads. You find so many ministers on Monday now trekking to Entebbe. Every 1 minute we hear a siren. Now, imagine if that is happening in America for all those former presidents, the ministers and so on. Doesn't it really? So maybe he wants to reduce on the cost first, because every that security big security detail comes with a huge cost.
United States of America has been stealing and continues to steal a lot of money from others. They would have no problem.
Stop them from really reducing on their budget.
I don't even think, by the way, that Trump is trying, by employing Elon Musk, is trying to cut the American cost. That is cost saving. I think what Trump is trying to do is to remove things from the government of America and privatize it, because all they do, these are traders. Trump, Elon Musk are just billionaires. They are in business. They are looking at where they can grab. They are grabbing government institutions and privatizing them. All that, for instance, is Trump fighting for, including even making Zelensky look a small kid and wanting to take Greenland from Sweden, is all the proposals that a business tycoon like Elon Musk is giving him. He himself is also a businessman. So at the end of the day, the cutting down of government information sharing with the previous high-ranking government officials, which is the culture of America, is not being done in good faith. It's simply paying back and exposing America. America, the higher it climbs, the more it exposes its private parts.
And on that note, Comrade Daniel Rugarama, thank you so much for being part of this show every Monday here at Satellite Hotel Kisasi. This show runs on NBS television every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. The PAP Weekly Roundup. Your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katsabe. Thank you so much.
Here comes
Africa, don't argue.